Sorry, having problems on this end. So here's what it says concerning the tithe. Likewise, the tithe of cattle and sheep belongs to the priests. In the matter of those suffering from a skin disease, we say that they shouldn't come with holy items susceptible to impurity. Rather, they must stay alone outside the camps, outside of Jerusalem. It's also written, from the time when he shaves and bathes, let him stay outside his tent 7 days. But at present, while they are still impure, those suffering from a skin disease, they're coming home with holy items susceptible to impurity. Which reminds me of medieval Catholic practice when they offered communion just with the bread. People would steal that and take it home and give it to sick people at home, thinking that that would exorcise whatever demon that they had that was making them sick. So there were all kinds of things stolen from churches at that time because they wouldn't serve sick people. They wouldn't go to their houses, undoubtedly affected by the Black Plague or something like that. And the holiness of an item, of an icon, of a statue that was in a church building was considered to have the kind of properties to heal. From people, of course, that didn't know Scripture, didn't read Scripture. They were ignorant of all that. That's good. They're coming home with holy items. Anyone who sins by inadvertence, I think that means omission, who breaks a commandment and is forgiven for it, must bring a sin offering, but they're not doing that. As for the intentionally disobedient, it's written, he is a despiser and a blasphemer. While they suffer impurities caused by skin diseases, they are not to be fed with holy food until the sun rises on the 8th day after they are cured. That's still a mystery. What is this holy food? Ham hocks and collard greens. I used to think that was a holy food. Concerning impurity caused by contact with a dead person, we say that every human bone, whether it's a skeleton or still covered with flesh, is governed. And finally, we have a conundrum at the end of this letter, because there's a term here that really for me is somewhat undefined. How about you? That is concerning a man's clothes. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Contact is governed statute. As for the fornication taking place among the people, they're supposed to be a holy people. As it's written, Israel is holy. Therefore, such is forbidden. Because the people is holy, and the sons of Aaron are holy of holies. Nevertheless, as you know, some of the priests and the people are mixing. He's just talked about clothing. I skipped that part, the wool and the linen. And there's a liner note here, intermarrying for mixing. They are intermarrying, thereby polluting the holy seed as well as their own seed with fornication. What are they trying to avoid here? They're trying to avoid their bloodline going bad because they recognized two creations, because they recognized in the book of Enoch how important it was in the animal apocalypse to keep that line pure for the future. They extend the line out in the animal apocalypse to their day and beyond, going clear up to the first century. And they've got it, unto Messiah. And because everything was foreordained, yet they were scared to death of their own free will, they have to make these rules. Okay, then we go to the second letter, and there's really just a couple things here to point out, and we're done with this part. Well, Eisenman and Wise believe that this was written to Agrippa first. I don't know where they actually get that idea, but the words used and the deep concern for these things, evidently they're writing to somebody that had power to change if they could. But they're writing to a third person because they also say, we went out from them, and this is why. So you got a third party. And concerning women, we don't know. And the rebellion, we don't know. For by reason of these, because of violence and fornication, some places have been destroyed. I think that those are two of the nets of Belial, if I'm remembering correctly. Further, it is written in the book of Moses, you are not to bring the abomination to your house, because the abomination is despised by Elohim. Mixing, he's still talking about. Bringing the foreigner or the foreign practice into your house, like stated plainly in Jeremiah 10, bringing the Asherah down to your house, nailing it to the floor, garnering it with tinsel. And the food ordinances, why? For health reasons? No. It just says, these are an abomination to you. That's the only reason. You're not to bring it in the house. Now, you know that we broke with the majority of the people and refused to mix or go along with them on these matters. Here we have a smaller sectarian society. And as I start out with the idea that anytime laws are expanded, it brings on sectarianism, because not everybody is going to agree with that. At least what we find here are explanations as to why. And they're pretty good. Notice that they call the Torah the book of Moses. They don't call it the Torah of Elohim or the Torah of Yahweh. It's also written that if you turn from the way, then evil will meet you. Again, it is written, it shall come to pass that when all these things come upon you in the end of days, this is a mark of Messianic faith that was not present in the other main sects of Judaism. And we get the idea that there were a lot of them. In the end of days, the blessing, they understood what the end of days was. That was the destruction of Israel, the retribution, the day of Yahweh. the blessing and the curse that I have set before you, and you call them to mind and return to me with all your heart and with all your soul. At the end time, here's a second phrase, then you will live. And is that Deuteronomy 18? Blessings and curses. Yeah, I remember in the church they used to read the blessings and the curses. But did they ever keep a Sabbath? No. Once again, it's written in the book of Moses and in the words of the prophets, and blessings and curses will come upon you. The blessings that came upon Israel in his days. Mark Mangio and I were talking about this as far as the blessings and the curses yesterday. When all they have to do is return. That's all they have to do. And when they returned, everything went good for them. But when their leaders led them astray, when their shepherds took them on paths of unrighteousness that appeared to be righteous paths, then we would get trickle-down disasters from the top to the bottom. And he's telling you exactly when these curses first came down. That is with Jeroboam. Jeroboam set up a golden calf, called the golden calf Yahweh, set it up in Beersheba and Bethel. And yet churches still call themselves Bethel. A fitting name, I guess. And they placed beside the golden calf the Asherah, the naked tree. And they considered Asherah the consort or wife of Yahweh, the golden calf. And the worship of these two was made manifest through government interaction for the sake of convenience. Well, now you don't have to go to Jerusalem anymore. Now you got a place in the north and a place in the south you can go. Our understanding is that kind of religion also soaked back into Egypt at Elephantine Island, the place we call Yeb today, where a bunch of people that fled from Amarna in the time that Amarna was destroyed ended up there. Next, we recognize that some of the blessings and curses have come, those written in the book of Moses. Therefore, this is the end of days. If this is written in 42 or somewhere thereabouts, they're right. Because the end of days came beginning in 66. I got 5 minutes. I think this goes back to David. All right. Yes. Remember David. He was a man of pious works. Let's look at the word pious. I don't know how many times I've looked this up to find a decent English definition, but then I realized I didn't have to. Because that word hasid means pious. And when we read of the Hasidim and the Maccabees, we're talking about these people here, probably the majority of them that didn't break off, they called themselves the pious ones, the Hasidim. Now we've got Hasidim today. These are not the same thing at all. You know, the guys with the dreadlocks, the curls, and stuff like that. These are not historically Hasidim. That's a movement that came out of the medieval ages, the Dark Ages. And finally, we're going to get the title of these letters that's given them by scholars. David, the man of pious works, and he also was saved from many sufferings and forgiven. And finally, we earlier wrote you about some of the works of the Torah. Now, how many can remember how to say that? Miksat, Maasa, HaTorah. You want to impress somebody? Well, I've been reading The Bridges of Madison County this last week, and oh, it's such a wonderful love story. What have you been reading? I've been reading Miksat Maasa HaTorah. And what violence.
Is Hasidim from the root word chesed?
Yeah,
So,
Hasid.
Yeah,
Hasid.
so it's loving kindness.
That's the way it's translated in, say, the ISR, I think. Loving kindness. Pious. Well, if you look at the English definitions, it's so vague that I can never get a hold of that. But when I think of pious, I'm thinking of somebody that's meek, but strong in their meekness. Is that a phone? Somebody that is cognizant of righteous way to live, who automatically does the right thing when given the opportunity. And there's some of the works of the Torah which we reckon for you, your own good, and for that of your people, for we see that you possess discernment and knowledge of the Torah. Now, who could this be to? Who is the audience here? Well, as I said, many think they're writing to Agrippa, and it fits. Agrippa kept the Torah to some extent. There's another very interesting character, Agrippa and his history. I think in the Acts, it talks about Agrippa wearing golden sequins out in the sun, and they were hailing Agrippa as a god. And remember, he blew up or something like that. I think they're mixed up with Herod the Great there. That's what happened to Herod the Great. Agrippa just died, probably from all the pressure he'd been under all his life. You read his life, jeez, you can't help but like him. You can't help but like Agrippa the First. Consider all these things and beseech him to grant you proper counsel and to keep you far from evil thoughts and the counsel of Belial. Then you will rejoice at the end time when you find some of our words were true. And thus it will be reckoned as righteousness. You're having done what is upright and good before him for your own good and for that of Israel. Next time I do a presentation, we're going to look at Paul and James and Genesis and Galatians and the epistle and try to determine, since James and Paul are on different poles, different planets when it comes to that which is reckoned as righteousness, which one of those fits the model of the Miksat Maasa HaTorah? And I thank you very much. I enjoyed it. Glad it's over. I worked so hard on that. We're going to be back about 2 o'clock, folks. If you want to, I think Liz is on next. Liz has got 2 or 3 sessions in a row, correct? What's the schedule say? Let's see. It's 1. Liz is up. Oh, I can't wait. She's been working real hard too. She's got some esoteric things to share. I just know the angels are going to come down. I hope they do. I know. I'm getting more and more respect for you every day. So we've been back about 2, and thank you guys for stopping in. We're having a good time here, and we're just about to eat our ham sandwiches for lunch.